Hey guys, Simon here with Caddis Fly, an Oregon fly fishing blog, and today I have a cool stonefly here for you. I'm calling it the belly bumper stone. It's got a insta jig bead on it, so it flips itself, so it'll ride like this, like a jig. It uses a new Tiemco hook, which I'll explain when we take a closer look. But super good fly right now, locally and probably all along the west. There's varying sizes of gold stones in the river at all times of year. And when I was seining around the other day, I was pulling up a bunch of them about this size. So I tied this one up and I'm going to share it with you guys. Thanks. So looking up close at this fly, this is using the new Tiemco 201R, size 10. This is a new hook from Tiemco. It looks a lot like a 200R, but with a larger gap. Honestly, it looks like if you mixed a B10S and a 200R, this is what you get. I decided to put a insta jig bead on it. 530 seconds is enough to flip it. No matter how you toss this thing in your hand, it always lands hook point up, so it'll be super deadly and won't get caught on the bottom and make a great point fly. And it's pretty straightforward. There's a couple steps setting it up, but once you kind of get cranking, filling the dubbing out in the legs, it goes pretty quick. So I'll show you guys how I do it. Okay, so how we are going to start this is with Semperfli Nano Silk 50 denier. This is a really good strong thread. I like it because it doesn't take up a lot of space. It's not great for building a like a taper. I wouldn't do that. You'll kind of burn through it pretty quick, but it's really strong and doesn't take up a lot of space, so you can do a lot with it. And so this hook is the TMC 201R, size 10. It's brand new, kind of like B10S from Gamakatsu, kind of like their 200R. Larger gape than the 200R. And then this is a 530 seconds insta jig tungsten head. And so if you look, once I secure this, you want your hook to be flipped. And if your hook's not flipped, you want to set it up like this, not the other way. So the hook inverts itself like a jig. And the important part here is you can see on this jig, there's one side that's kind of carved out and one side that's not. And you want the side that's carved out to be facing the eyelet. That's important here. And so we're going to kind of crisscross to secure this. As you tie more stuff on, it'll secure it more. But just kind of get it in place. You want to leave enough space to do the head. And so we're going to wrap this a little bit up the shank for the tail. And you can tell with this thread I'm bumping this hook point and it's not breaking. That's one of the reasons why I love this thread. You can make little mistakes like that and not have a really big problem because of it. So what we're going to use for the tails is turkey biots from a turkey biot quilt. And you're going to do them flaring out. And this has gone up the hook shank a little bit. So I'm always going to tie them in lightly to start, because I can always kind of push and pull and adjust. If you clamp them down right away, you're stuck with how you put them in, and that's not always how you want it to look. So this can take a sec just to get it kind of how you want it looking. Also, the fact that it's kind of inverted end on the bend of the hook makes it a little bit tighter of a squeeze to work in there. But that's about how long I want it. So I'm going to mirror the same thing on the other side with the other one. And I'm going to flip this so I can see what I'm doing. But I will turn it back to show you guys once I'm done. Yeah, so I always lightly do it first, and then I will kind of snug it up to the right length. I'll pull this one just a little bit more too, shorten it up. Cool, and so that's done. So now we kind of clamp these down and just wrap them up here. That'll kind of help fill in the body a little bit. And now we have these tails in. And so we can come up here and do the antenna really quick. And that's going to be the opposite edge. If the buyouts are on this side, the antenna I grab from this other side. I believe they call it the leading edge fibers of the feather. And so we're just going to tie these on. Now these are sort of optional. I don't know if it's going to make a difference if the fish eats it or not, but it looks a lot more realistic and kind of buggy with the antenna on it. So it's something I do. And it's people use all sorts of different stuff for antenna, and these work pretty good, especially when they're short and they actually last pretty long. So just another technique to show you guys. Same thing here on this other side. Now that that's in, we'll clip this. Cinnamon tip turkey for the wing case, and the just runs up the thorax. Actually, before that, we're going to put in 0.15 millimeter lead here. This will kind of make the body a little wider and add a little bit of weight. I do this on almost all my stoneflies because they have like a flat, they actually have kind of like a wider body. And if you don't do that, if you don't do this, it's tough to make the body look like squashed and flat. And so this helps, and it just gives you a little bit of weight too. And so we'll kind of get that on, and you want to run this along the side of the hook. That's how you want to do that. So we'll quickly wrap this up. Doesn't need to look pretty because it's all going to get covered. You're going to want to stop it right in front of the buyouts back there. And so now we're at that point. I'm going to take medium soft wire, a little bit of it, and run it along the top. That'll help kind of round out the body a little bit. And then we'll put in cinnamon tip turkey right here towards the back, and we are going to pull this back over itself eventually. Doesn't really matter where you tie it in. It's just got to end up in the back here and try to tie it in somewhat flat. Okay, so now that most of this prep work's done, once we dub it, we just kind of pull everything forward. I'm putting these little mono nymph eyes in up here. Again, probably not super crucial to the how it fishes, but it makes it look more realistic, and it actually allows you to make its own little head, which I guess would help with the fly's profile. So those are extra small. And so now the dub that I like to use for this is superfine dry dub tam. And I like to use a superfine dub because it dubs the body super tight, and that helps you build the profile of the fly a little bit more carefully. So we're going to start wrapping it from the back here, starting very small and working our way larger here, and slowly getting bigger as we go. Once you get all of that kind of setup done, all of this is pretty easy. We're just going to dub it up and add legs, and we're pretty much done. It's pretty quick from here on out. And so I'm actually going to go back and add just a little bit kind of towards the tail over itself. If you have to go back over your body, doing it really thin kind of helps you not leave marks. And I'm just going to add just a little bit more back here. And then before I run back up, I will just put a little bit so you're not seeing the thread marks. Okay, so now that we're back up here, I'm going to pull this forward. Try to keep it centered. And this will help kind of amplify the segmentation here. And so we're going to take this wire and just try to evenly rib it as we go here. And this will give the fly segmentation. What's really crucial about this ribbing also is it will give the fly durability. That's mainly what's more important. I mean, the ribbing helps it look more real and whatnot, but the a lot of times wire is really what it's used for is durability on a fly. I'm taking a little piece of micro flashabou right here to put on the wing case, so I have to tie it in forward really quick. Again, it doesn't have to look super pretty because it's just going to get pulled back over itself, but we're just going to secure that in. And we're taking this whole wing case and popping it back before we do the legs. And then we'll just pull everything forward after we pop the legs in, and it'll be done. So these legs I like to use are tan, small, barred sexy floss. They flare a certain direction, you can kind of see. I like to tie it with the flare going out. And they're cinched on a zip tie in the bag, and they're cinched right in the middle. And I like to take half of one is long enough to do this whole fly. And so I will tie it in on one side right here, and then I will take this end, try to have it flaring out still, bring it around the front, and if I clamp it down here, it gives me enough leg to work with, and I can kind of straighten it out and adjust it as need be, but that looks good to me. And we'll trim this here, and we'll dub the body and finish this up. I like to add a little bit more dubbing up by the thorax, just because it does get a little bit wider up there. So I will add a little bit more, but not go crazy. I think working with less to start is smart, so you don't overload it. When you do too much dubbing, it's hard to undo it, and it's a pain. So I'm kind of wrapping this pretty much up to the bead here. And then we're going to put a little bit in front of the bead too. And that will kind of push these legs back. And so one at a time, you want to get around these legs here. And that'll help flare those legs out just how you want. You have a little bit more space to add a little bit more. So now this guy comes forward, this wing case. At this point, laying it down flat helps if you can. And then this flash, pull forward. This flash gives it a little, it's a pretty natural looking fly, but it gives it kind of a little bit of some attractor properties. It can kind of help catch the fish's attention. And so now we're going to just add a little bit of dubbing by the head, and we'll be done. So we'll kind of do cross wraps with this dubbing around these eyes. It'll fill in that space right here. And then we pull this guy forward right like this. Pull this flash, and this fly's done. We'll just trim everything off. Straighten out the flash if you need. I like to take a couple wraps before I trim it, just in case, because you don't want to get this far and have it kind of screw up. I'll whip finish, and we'll add a little bit of resin for durability on this guy, and then it's ready to fish. Solaris Bone Dry is my resin of choice here. It's thin, dries hard. Before I do the back, I am going to put a dot under here, and that'll really hold the thread wraps together. And then we will kind of very lightly coat the top, and this will help make the back kind of pop and just hold everything together. And so I guess the only other thing that you would need to do if you want is you can trim the legs down a little bit. These are pretty good length. I can maybe cut them down just a hair. But yeah, here you got the belly bumper goldstone. This fly is unflippable, as you can see. No matter how I toss it, it's always riding hook point up, so you're not gonna get hung up on the bottom and lose it. If you tie it up, let us know how it fishes. Thanks.